Welcome to the deep dive. We cut through the noise to focus on the stories really shaping our world. And today, wow, we have a headline that just it grabs you. China has made AI education mandatory for 6-year-olds.
Yeah, it's pretty stunning when you first hear it.
It really is. Just think about that for a second. Kids, just starting primary school.
Barely learned to tie their shoes.
Exactly. And suddenly, artificial intelligence is part of their core curriculum. And look, this isn't some small pilot program somewhere. No, it's nationwide. Millions of kids, starting September 1st. It's a massive shift.
An educational revolution, you could almost call it, on a scale we haven't really seen before with AI.
Right. So obviously, we need to unpack this. Our deep dive today is going to look at, what exactly are they teaching? What's the big why behind this? What's China's ultimate goal here? And crucially, what does this mean for China, for the global tech race, for all of us, really? It's a big one.
It absolutely is. And what's so fascinating, I think, is the contrast. You look around the world, many places are still arguing about whether to even allow tools like ChatGPT in schools.
Yeah, we're just struggling with basic digital literacy sometimes.
Exactly. Meanwhile, China is systematically building an entire generation, not just to use AI tools, but to understand them, to work with AI, maybe even develop it right from the ground up, from age 6. It's just a completely different mindset, a different strategic approach to integrating this technology.
Okay, so it's clearly not just about downloading a few apps. This sounds very structured. Let's maybe walk through that structure. How does this AI curriculum actually unfold for these kids as they get older?
Right.
For the little ones, the primary school kids, 6 and up. What's the focus there?
So at that age, it's really about AI literacy, getting them comfortable.
Comfortable how? Like, what does that look like?
Think simple concepts, maybe interacting with voice recognition, basic image classification through games or something visual.
So not deep coding or complex theory yet.
No, not at all. It's about sparking interest, demystifying it, making AI feel normal, approachable. Maybe they see some educational robots, interact with them. It's exposure, building familiarity, making it just another tool, like learning the alphabet.
Okay, makes sense. Then what happens when they move into junior high?
That's where it steps up. They start looking at AI logic, the basics of how machine learning works, and importantly, starting to think critically about AI. Its uses, its limits.
So moving beyond just what it does to a bit of the how and why.
Precisely. Understanding the principles behind it.
And then high school.
That's where it gets into applied innovation. Students actually start designing, maybe implementing simple AI algorithmic models.
Wow, okay. So it really builds from just seeing AI to understanding it to actually trying to create with it.
It's a full progression, treated like any other core subject, really, like math or science.
Now, you mentioned something interesting earlier. The how they learn is also controlled, especially for the younger ones.
Yes, and this is critical. The government guidelines are very specific. Primary kids. They are not allowed to just use generative AI on their own to, say, write an essay. And teachers, they're forbidden from using AI for core tasks like answering questions or grading.
Okay, so the human teacher remains absolutely central.
Absolutely central. The emphasis is strongly on teacher-led learning. AI is positioned very clearly as a supplementary tool. It's there to assist, maybe illustrate a point, but it's not replacing the teacher or, crucially, the student's own thinking process.
That raises a huge question, doesn't it? How do you teach kids about this incredibly powerful tool without it making them, well, lazy thinkers or overly reliant?
That's the tightrope they're walking. The guidelines explicitly state they do not want AI doing the thinking for children. It's a really delicate balance they're trying to strike. They want kids to embrace AI, see its potential, but not lose their own critical thinking, their own problem-solving skills.
So it's about fostering mastery over AI, not dependence on AI.
Exactly. Cultivating a generation that sees AI as a collaborator, a tool to be wielded, not something to fear or blindly follow. It's quite nuanced.
This kind of massive, centrally planned educational shift, it doesn't just happen. There has to be a powerful driver. So let's pivot to that why. What's the real motivation behind China going all in on this?
Well, fundamentally, you have to look at President Xi Jinping's vision. His overarching goal, the great rejuvenation of China by 2049. He talks about building a modern socialist society that's prosperous, strong, advanced.
And he sees AI as central to that vision.
absolutely pivotal. Not just one important technology, but perhaps the defining technology to achieve that national ambition. He sees AI as the key to becoming a dominant global power technologically, economically, militarily, the whole package.
And this isn't being left to chance or just market forces.
Not at all. This is state-directed, top-down, huge investment, strategic planning. Education is just one piece of that puzzle.
So zooming out, as you say, it's more than just tech skills. It connects to something bigger.
Definitely. Xi Jinping sees AI as deeply connected to the national narrative, to China's identity on the world stage. Because AI models, especially large language models, LLMs, they aren't neutral
Right.
calculators.
They reflect the data. They're trained on the culture that creates them.
Precisely. They absorb the ideas, the philosophies, the biases, the ideologies of their creators. So China wants to be a major force in shaping those global narratives through its own LLMs.
Not just competing economically, but in the realm of ideas, of worldview.
Exactly. Think about how an AI trained primarily on Western data might answer questions about history or ethics versus one trained on Chinese data. China wants its perspective, its story, reflected in these powerful tools that will increasingly shape how people get information, its soft power influence on a massive scale.
And it seems like others are taking notice. You mentioned U.S. CEOs.
Yeah, that's quite telling. Around 250 major U.S. CEOs, heads of places like LinkedIn, Uber, Salesforce, publicly saying the U.S. isn't doing enough. They see China's long game with this AI education push and are worried the U.S. is falling behind in preparing its own future workforce.
Which brings us nicely to that broader picture. This AI education drive is part of a much bigger strategy, isn't it? Involving robotics, industry.
Absolutely, it's all integrated.
Tell us about that. I saw some incredible things coming out of the recent World Robotics Conference in Beijing. The theme was embodied intelligence, which means
Basically, giving AI a physical body, robots that can interact with the real world, not just exist digitally.
and the examples were wild. Fighting robots, robots playing drums.
Yeah, pretty advanced stuff. Robots making coffee, serving snacks, demonstrating dexterity and interaction.
And those incredibly lifelike humanoid robots. Silicon skin, eye movements. Almost uncanny.
They're pushing the boundaries of realism and capability.
There was one robot from UB Tech that really stood out.
Hmm.
Designed for EV factories. It can change its own battery.
That's the one. It works, senses low power, goes to a station, swaps its battery, and gets back to work. Autonomously.
Wow. So a factory worker that literally works 20/47. No breaks, no sleep, no complaints.
That's the vision.
So you combine that level of automation with a
Mhm.
whole generation coming through the education system steeped in AI from age 6. By, what, 2035, 2037, you've got an entire workforce that grew up with this. What does that future look like?
Well, it's China's strategic answer to a major challenge, demographics.
The aging population, declining birth rate issue.
Exactly. The massive labor force that powered their economic boom is shrinking.
Mhm.
There's real concern about who will do the work. So AI and these advanced robots, they're seen as the solution, a way to fill that labor gap, maybe even boost productivity beyond previous levels in factories, healthcare, everywhere.
It's a massive technological bet to overcome a demographic hurdle.
A huge bet. And it's interesting how different the framing is compared to, say, the West.
How-
In many Western countries, the conversation around AI and automation is often dominated by fear. Fear of job losses, social disruption.
Right. The robots are taking our jobs narrative.
Precisely. China, on the other hand, seems to be embracing it much more enthusiastically, almost proactively, betting that AI is the solution to future problems, not the cause of new ones. It's about national resilience, competitiveness, going all in on a future where humans and robots work side by side, or maybe robots work alone in some sectors.
And that drive for technological supremacy inevitably leads to the core technology, the foundation, the chips, the semiconductors.
The heart of AI.
For a long time, the U.S. had a clear lead there, right? Companies like NVIDIA making the best chips.
Undeniably, they controlled the cutting edge.
Then the Biden administration moved to restrict China's access to those top-tier chips. The concern was military applications.
Primarily, yes. The fear was these advanced chips could accelerate China's military AI capabilities, shifting the balance of power.
So how did that play out? Did it cripple China's AI development?
Initially, it definitely hurt. Many Chinese companies relied on those chips. But there's a fascinating question here. Did those restrictions actually end up accelerating China's push for self-sufficiency? for building its own advanced semiconductor industry.
The unintended consequence.
It certainly seems like it poured fuel on the fire.
Yeah.
They doubled down on developing homegrown alternatives.
And we saw evidence of that.
Absolutely. Look at DeepSeek, a Chinese AI company that kind of burst onto the scene earlier this year. They released AI models that were suddenly competing toe-to-toe with OpenAI's and Google's best. It shocked a lot of people in the West.
Challenging the idea that China was lagging far behind.
Exactly. And you even had some Chinese commentators, somewhat cheekily, thanking the U.S. for the restrictions.
Things that forced them to innovate faster.
Pretty much, arguing it spurred the investment and focus needed to build their own independent capabilities, a classic case of pressure fostering innovation.
And this connects directly back to the military angle you mentioned.
Hmm.
President Xi seems very clear about AI's role there.
Crystal clear. It's not a future hypothetical. It's happening now. Think about that recent military parade in Beijing. What was on display?
Drones. Lots of drones. Unmanned ships, even submarine vehicles.
Advanced autonomous systems, and the phrase that kept coming up, the army of the future is the army of no man.
Chilling in a way.
It highlights a massive strategic shift. AI changes warfare fundamentally. Think hyper-efficient surveillance, smart reconnaissance, faster early warnings, and maybe the most dramatic, coordinating complex swarm attacks. Hundreds, maybe thousands of autonomous drones or vehicles acting in concert?
Without direct human control for every single unit.
Potentially. It changes risk calculations, decision speeds, the very nature of combat. Faster, more distributed, perhaps more lethal. It's a different kind of warfare emerging.
So wrapping this all together, what we're seeing is this incredibly coherent long-term strategy from China. Integrating AI across education, the workforce, the economy, the military, it's all connected.
A truly national, systemic effort.
And the implications. So just think about that generation graduating around 2037. 12-plus years of structured AI learning, starting at age 6.
They'll have grown up with AI woven into their understanding of the world in a way no other population has.
It's a generation literally primed for an AI-driven future.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, it really makes you reflect on the world our kids are entering. I saw one journalist who had young children grappling with this. On one hand, maybe some pessimism, some anxiety about this rapid change.
Understandable.
But on the other hand, also a sense of hope. Could AI free us up, take over the mundane, the repetitive tasks? Could it actually allow humans more time for creativity, for expression, for connection, for focusing on what makes us uniquely human?
That's the optimistic view, I suppose.
It's a possibility worth considering.
This deep dive really paints a picture of a nation going all in on AI, with a focus and unity that's, frankly, remarkable. It leaves you wondering, doesn't it? With that kind of systematic approach, what kind of world are we actually building? And maybe more personally, what role is AI going to play in your life or your kids' lives sooner than we perhaps think?